A baptism is a Christian ceremony at which the person is given a name and made a member of the Christian church. Most of the ceremony takes place at the font. This font has been used for all baptisms since 1904 in this church, but it is much older and dates to 1680.
What is this film about?
Well, this is a baptism register that covers the First World War. In here are the names of all the babies, children and adults that come to this church to be baptised during these years. All the entries are handwritten, usually by the vicar. He would have collected the information on a form and then written it in after the baptism. They are not always easy to read, as you can see. However, they give a lot of information about the family, and they have been very useful to us when finding out about the names on the memorials that you can see around the church. Looking at this entry for Albert Edward Paget, we can see that this baby's baptism was on the 2nd of April 1916. His first names are Albert Edward. Then we have the name of his father, also Albert Edward, and his mother, Annie Louisa. Then his surname, which was Paget. We get to see where they were living, 2 Alinda Road. The locals will know that this is 1 street away from the church. The father's occupation, that is what he did for work, is written in too. We found a lot of entries during wartime where the father had joined up to fight, so his work was counted as the army or one of the other forces. Here we see he was in the Royal Marine Artillery as a gunner. Other documents show that Albert had joined up some years before 1914, so this would have been his profession anyway. In most cases, they did not write in what the father did for work before the war. The mother's work was not noted at this time. The birth date is not always recorded, but here we have it written in the left-hand margin, the 20th of December 1915. So from this information, we can see that the Paget family lived just around the corner. They would have come to this church for services. Little Albert was born 5 days before Christmas, while his father was with his regiment. The father's war records may show if they gave him leave to come home after the birth and for the baptism, but it is likely he missed both of these special events. This entry is for George Herbert Gladwell, who was born on the 10th of August 1916 and was baptised just 15 days later on the 25th of August. Records show that George Herbert was one of twins. The other, Frederick Arthur, sadly died within a day. It's possible that George was not strong and they wanted to get him baptised quickly. Here we see that the father gives his profession as piano fitter and as a soldier. An earlier record shows that his father was a French polisher, working with pianos too. So this was possibly a family trade. The family also lived locally at 10 Crowland Road. This will be a familiar road to those who go to school around here.
All new birds start a new story.
And from these registers, there are lots more stories to be told.
And what's this register?
Well, this is a register of marriages. It covers the period between 1908 and 1920. Side.
The information about the marriage is filled in by the vicar on the day itself, and the couple have to sign it. By law, there has to be witnesses, usually family or friends. Looking at this entry, we can see the marriage took place between Charles Carey and Emily Graves on June the 23rd, 1917. They are asked for their names, including middle names and ages. They had to say if they were single, men said bachelor, and women said spinster. If it is said widower or widow, that meant they had been married before and their husband or wife had died. Their rank or profession was what they worked at. Before the war, that might have meant a trade. But during the war, they put down what service they were in, if they had joined up. Not all women work outside of the home. Emily has nothing to enter here. Next is where they both live. Emily Graves lived across the road in 87 Craven Park Road. Charles Carey has put down Brentwood Hospital. Family records say he was being treated for shell shock, which meant he had been fighting and become ill after and needed treatment. Next comes their fathers' names, and then what their work was. Charles' father was a bootmaker, and Emily's father was a builder. Then we get the signatures of the couple and the witnesses. It looks like both of them came from Emily's side of the family, Ethel and Henry Graves. From all this information, we used a family history site and found this photo of the couple together on their wedding day, which I think makes the facts on the page come to life. Sometimes more than one member of the family was married during wartime. The Lever sisters, Ethel and Maud, both lived with their family at 93 Glazemore Road. In 1916, it must have been a busy time preparing for two weddings. Ethel's marriage to Alec Penstone was on the 13th of February 1916, followed by Maud's marriage to Herbert Ramus less than 3 months later. All four gave their address as the family home in Gladesmore Road, although they didn't move to their own homes after the war with their children. This entry for Ethel's marriage showed that her mother Frances Lever and her future brother-in-law Herbert Ramus signed as witnesses. Maud's marriage to Herbert was witnessed by her father, Thomas E. Lever, and the May Castle. She could have been a friend of the family or another relative. Both Alec Penstone and Herbert Ramus were soldiers. From the details given, we found service records which show that by 1916, Herbert had been injured and had to leave the service. Alec had joined at the end of August 1914, and his service finished on the 10th of November 1917. Marriage register details have helped with our memorial names. Sadly, several names have been found in both the marriage register and the plaques and other memorials around the church. However, both of the family stories above show that the war did not stop couples from planning a new life when the fighting was over.
So what is the overall picture we get from looking at these registers?
The war affected nearly everyone. A whole generation of young men went off to war.
Please have a look at our other short films. They'll show you a glimpse of what else we've discovered. If you'd like to see for yourself, you're very welcome to visit us here at St. Bartholomew's Church.